Okay, welcome back folks. So I am now going to finish my 10 to 1 list of my top 10 picks of the films that I saw this year. So without any introduction, let's get right into it. Alright, so coming in at number 10 was a movie that actually really surprised me of just how good I thought it was, and that was Wonka. This was such a bright and uplifting and endearing film about holding on to your dreams, which is a message that you don't see much in movies anymore, and it's refreshing to see one that has this message that actually does it really well. It is actually now my favourite of the three Wonka movies now, even dethroning the original. I know how blasphemous that must sound, but it doesn't dethrone it by that much. I still really love that movie. And of course it's better than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that came out in 2005, even though I don't think that is an awful movie, though it is definitely the weakest of the three. I had a really good time with this movie. I loved Timothy Chalamet as Willy Wonka. I thought he did a really good job at a young Willy Wonka who was still developing his craft and building his business. I did like all the supporting characters. I loved Hugh Grant as a Oompa Loompa. He was hilarious in the film. I loved it when he said, "Small man, how dare you?" That was so funny. He was a really perfect pick for the Oompa Loompa role, and I did like how they actually got an Oompa Loompa to actually talk and have dialogue this time instead of just sing. Also, the songs in this movie are really good as well. I will say, just harkening back to Wish, I didn't think all the songs in Wish landed that well, but every song in this musical Wonka actually did land very well to me. They were very well made, they were very well choreographed, well written. The melodies were really good. Of course, Pure Imagination makes a return in this film. And overall, it's also a very nice looking movie. The whole production design is just really, really good in this movie in particular. The candy design is off the charts. It looks amazing. Wonka's shop looks amazing. The location, the town, I don't know where they shot it in, but it also looks really nice. I will say that the only complaint I had is that I felt that the film was kind of limited to the town, didn't really go anywhere else apart from Oompa Loompa Land, which you unfortunately don't see very much of. So that was kind of the only cons I had for this movie, but apart from that, a very, very solid, very well crafted and directed prequel to the Willy Wonka films. Okay, so coming in at number 9 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now this is without a doubt the best superhero film that came out this year. And absolutely the best Marvel film, and probably maybe even the best science fiction film, tying with pretty close with the creator. I really did like just how hard this movie went, just how emotional it got in some scenes, just how evil they made the villain in this one. This is definitely, without a doubt, leaps and bounds better than Kang, and much more menacing, much more threatening, and just much more hateable too. He's really a monstrous person. And I really do like the African actor that I also forgot the name of. He put on a really good performance for this guy, not being afraid to scream and shout at pretty much everyone, and just overall being a massive asshole to everyone and everything. Rocket's backstory was also very engrossing and very evocative and very emotional as well. I did really enjoy what I saw, and I do like kind of how edgy they made it when it came to like abused animals, which is something that I know triggered a few people, but I did like how well they handled it in this film, because it's not something you see much of in modern films. And of course, no real animals were harmed in the making of this movie. It's all CGI, so just putting that out there. But overall, it was very funny, very emotionally powerful, and very entertaining. The action scene in that hallway was probably the best action scene I've seen all year. It kind of gave me like flashback memories of like the lobby shootout scene from The Matrix, even though those two scenes are very different. It did sort of feel similar in like the length that it went for, and like the place it was in, and the sort of intensity that you saw. People flipping backwards and shooting everyone in the face. I'm not sure if James Gunn was thinking about that scene from The Matrix 1 when he was crafting that scene, but it did kind of give me that same feeling, and I love that. It was a really entertaining film. Very long film too, but it did kind of warrant its length. It didn't really drag. There was a lot to tell in this movie, and it did run very well from start to finish. Overall, just a brilliant job from James Gunn, and I know this is his last MCU film. He's going to be jumping over to the DCEU now, and hopefully he's going to fix that all up too. So I'm excited. Alright, so coming in at number 8 is definitely the funniest film I've seen all year, which is funny because it's not exactly a comedy, it's a comedy fantasy, and that is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I had a blast with this movie. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I have played quite a bit of Dungeons & Dragons in the past, and I really did like all the nods I had to the game. I'm not the biggest fan of D&D. I don't like know it to death and all the depths, but I have played quite a few matches with my DM, which I don't see anymore unfortunately, but he was an American DM who did beginner D&D games in Brisbane, and he invited me to a showing, and he came up in his wizard robe and like Gandalf hat and stick, and it was just a great theatre experience all around. Everybody was laughing, I was laughing too. There were some really good jokes in this. I loved Chris Pine in this movie, and I loved Michelle Rodriguez as well. She put on a really good role. She was really good in this movie. Overall, the action was really good as well. The effects, the CGI for all the monsters and like the gelatinous cube and like that big chase scene in that deadly maze towards the end was also very entertaining. Overall, it kind of felt like sometimes it felt like it was like Game of Thrones on laughing gas. It was like a funny piss take version of Game of Thrones with a bit of Lord of the Rings thrown in as well. But of course, it's based off Dungeons and Dragons, and I really got the lore right with this movie. I know there's been a couple of D&D movies in the past that didn't really work, but this one definitely did, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Okay, so coming in at number 7 is also another animated film that I really enjoyed, and the reason why it's up here so far is because it's a stop-motion animated film from Aardman. I haven't seen an Aardman film in theatres since probably like Flushed Away in 2006, even though that was a CG film, since their factory studio burnt down in 2005 after they finished Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And unfortunately, I actually didn't see Early Man in theatres. I probably should have saw that one. It's probably a good movie, but I just didn't get around to seeing that one, which is a shame because I know that Dawn of the Nugget, that Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, which is the movie I'm talking about, of course, was not released in theatres as far as I know. It was a Netflix-only release. And it is a shame because it definitely would have been a good film to see in theatres. But I did also really enjoy watching it at home on Netflix. It was very entertaining. I liked the new character that they added. Oh, what was she called again? She was like called... Isn't it awful? I keep on forgetting the names of these characters. But Ginger and Rocky were back, though they weren't voiced by Julia... Was it Julia Roberts? Julia Peterson as Ginger? And of course, Mel Gibson did not return as Rocky as well, which was a bit weird because he sounded nothing like Mel Gibson. Ginger at least sounded a little bit similar to the original actor, but Rocky did not sound anything like the original Rocky, which was a bit of a shame. But that was probably the only bad part of the movie. The rest of the movie is actually very entertaining and actually very, very solid, and the stop-motion animation looks brilliant. It looks gorgeous. It's more lighthearted than the first one. The first one definitely had very darker undertone, or kind of like them trying to like escape like some sort of like concentration camp where fellow chickens were being murdered off screen. Well, this is a bit similar. This time they're breaking into a factory made by Miss Tweedy to turn chickens into nuggets instead of pies. Funnily enough, you actually witness one of the chickens falling into the machine, and you hear it like being torn apart and everything, but it's very comical, it's very PG. That's probably the darkest part of the movie. There's a subplot where the chickens are being brainwashed by collars in this little theme park place that looks like a killing area out of Squid Game. It looked very reminiscent of Squid Game, which is kind of weird, but also kind of funny. Overall, it's just refreshing to see another Aardman film come out after all these years, because I really like the studio. I hope this movie does well for Netflix and Aardman, and hopefully we'll see more features from them in the future, hopefully in theatres. Alright, so coming in at number 6 is, funnily enough, the only Australian film that made it on the list this year, and that movie, of course, is Talk to Me. Now, before I talk about Talk to Me, I want to just clarify, I have not seen Anyone But You yet. I am currently watching the 4th season of Bump, which I hopefully will get up on the channel early next year. So I will review those 2 movies, but I fucking loved this movie from beginning to end. It was actually, honest to God, terrifying at some parts. The horror was done exceptionally well. The woman who acted as the main protagonist, the female actor, which I also forget, was brilliant in it. Her performance was incredible. The horror scenes were masterfully done. They were so well crafted and they were actually scary. There's not very many jump scares in this movie. It's not really focused on jump scares. It's kind of just focusing on just watching the chaos and the sheer horror of what's happening unfold, and watch people like beat themselves and hurt themselves. It's quite a fucked up movie actually. It's all about whether you get to see hell and letting demons in and shit like that. But I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. This is the first film I've seen from Raka Raka, and hopefully not the last, because this was definitely the best horror film I've seen this year, and also in quite some time, for probably a few years actually. It really is that good in my opinion. Alright, taking spot number 5 is my highest rated animated film of the year, and as you can probably guess, of course, it is Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This movie absolutely blew my mind just how good it was. It was original, every character was well acted, the animation was just awesome, incredible. The villain was also pretty well thought out as well. I loved all the twists and turns of Miles Morales' story, him fighting himself as a superhero. It kind of toys with like the triumph of free will over fate, which is also a very something that you don't get to see done in entertainment that much anymore, which was really refreshing to me to see how they did it. The universe concept was expanded upon. I liked the sub-villain of Spot. He was pretty entertaining, even though he wasn't really a villain. Overall, this was just an absolutely mind-blowingly good animated film, and probably one of the best I've ever seen of all time. I am very keen to see how this is going to conclude in Beyond the Spider-Verse, which from what I can see is coming out sometime next year. So yeah, it's just incredible and I can't wait. Alright, so taking in number 4 is John Wick Chapter 4, starring Keanu Reeves, of course. This was just an insanely well directed and well produced and well choreographed and not sure well acted, because it's not really, the acting is not the strong suit of this movie, but the action in this movie is just like next level. It is top notch. It is top tier action that you see in this movie. The direction is just off the charts. The choreography with some of these samurai sword fight scenes is some of the best I've seen, and that staircase scene towards the end with him going up all those stairs with that Justice music playing in the background was just such an incredible scene. The overhead shot scene of him going through the maze with the Dragon's Breath shotgun is one of the best action films I've seen in several years. I could just go on and on and on about how good this movie was when it came to the action, how great Keanu Reeves was in this movie, how good Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie in the very short amount of time he was on screen. It was just incredible, and it is definitely one I'm going to be rewatching over and over again, probably to the point where I haven't rewatched the movie so many times since Mad Max Fury Road and probably Top Gun Maverick. Alright, so now I come down to the final top 3 picks of 2023 of my favourite films that I've seen this year. This actually, surprisingly enough, was pretty easy for me to figure out. There wasn't a lot of mixing and matching. Once I kind of just locked them into place and kind of accepted where they stand, because I like all 3 of these movies very, very much. So anyway, coming at number 3 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, starring Tom Cruise. Correct me if I'm wrong, this movie is directed by Christopher McQuarrie. I know he did direct Rogue Nation, and I think he directed Fallout, though I'm not entirely sure. Though this was a blast from start to finish. These stunts in this movie are just, there really is no other way to describe them apart from insane. You can see that Tom Cruise is actually kind of endangering his life when it comes to some of these stunts. There is a massive diving scene off a cliff face that's probably almost 1 kilometre up in the air. There is a fight on top of a train, unlike in the original Mission Impossible movie, which was CGI. This was all done practically, which just blows my mind. And sometimes I worry for the safety of Tom Cruise and the other stunt actors, but I'm pretty sure they were very well supervised. And I think Tom Cruise was actually the stunt supervisor of this production, since he does all of his stunts himself and probably even crafts a lot of them himself, which is very impressive. I really admire that man and just how committed he is into the action of his films. Overall, just one of the best Mission Impossible movies ever. I'm very excited to see the second one. I think that's coming out next year. Overall, I'm probably going to give that one a very, very high review as well. Overall, definitely see this movie if you haven't seen it already. Okay, so coming at number 2 is Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer is definitely, in my opinion, the best drama film of 2023. The drama is actually very well owned and very well crafted. Though, as I said before, it's not a light-hearted movie in the slightest. It's also very dark. But I can forgive this one because it's actually very well written and very well crafted. The character of Oppenheimer is very well researched and studied, and it's a really good character study of the real person whose sense of well-being and sanity was basically destroyed when he realised that his bomb was being abused, which it's not really being abused anyway, because what happened was kind of like the only way we could have really seen happen when something like that gets invented. And of course his invention causes one of the most horrible massacres in human history, which is the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The movie is split into like 2 portions of like building the bomb and all the backbreaking work he had to go through to get all the theories right, get all the theory behind it, then actually have it manufactured. And the second part is the aftermath of the bombing and him going through all these legal cases and him trying to justify why he created the machine. I do like how the actual bombing is not shown, which is very respectful of Christopher Nolan, though you can see his anxiety racing and his conscience completely eating him alive after he realised what his creation has done. Very masterful performance from Cillian Murphy. I actually remembered the actor this time. It's a miracle. Also loved Robert Downey Jr. in this movie. It was a very different role for him. I love the actor who played Albert Einstein. I thought it was a pretty accurate portrayal of how he probably was. And overall, it's just a brilliant movie. It's one of Christopher Nolan's best, in my opinion. Though I still think I like the Inception, The Prestige, and The Dark Knight. And Interstellar better than this movie. But it definitely fits in probably into the number 5 spot, circulating around those 5 movies. But overall, it's a really good film, and you should definitely see it if you're a fan of Christopher Nolan and biographical dramas. And so, that leads me to my number 1 favourite film of 2023. Before I reveal the name of this movie, I know this goes without saying, but this movie just blew me away at just how fantastic it was. The acting was incredible, and everything else about this movie was incredible, and that movie, of course, is Godzilla Minus One. This is, without a doubt, the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen, and it does make me interested in seeing all the older 50s and 60s movies that I have not seen. At this point in time, I've only seen Godzilla 1998, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla 2 King of the Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong. And this new Japanese Godzilla movie trumps all of them. It is better than all 4 of them, possibly even combined. I know that is a very heavy claim, but hear me out. I did really enjoy Godzilla 2014. I did like Bryan Cranston's performance in it, even though he is unfortunately killed off quite early in that film, which was a bit of a shame. I wanted to see him last a bit longer, get his redemption. But the thing I loved about this movie is that they just go all out on Godzilla's destruction. He is not an anti-hero. He is not a force of nature trying to restore balance to the world. He is simply a monster in this movie, and he is an evil monster in this movie. There is no justification of what he is doing. He just appears and he just wrecks everything. He ruins the lives of countless people, and it is the kind of a revenge story of the main character kind of fighting back against Godzilla after a tragic event that happened to him while he was in the Japanese military. The human characters are what make this movie exceptional, because, as you know, the human characters in most Godzilla movies are pretty poor because the movie's about Godzilla. And even though Godzilla has a massive presence in this movie, I mean, he is still the star of the movie. But the human characters are just as good and even more fleshed out, and more care and design and thought and planning were put into these characters than Godzilla. And overall, I think it is the only film on this list that I would probably consider as being perfect. It is a perfect Godzilla film. I think there is one thing I have with this movie, and that is when the main character's wife pushes him out of the way during the Godzilla blast scene. That's like the only blemish of kind of why she did that, just to like advance the plot in a certain way, to make them separated. The Godzilla nuclear blast scene in this movie is one of the best, if not the best, nuclear blast scene I've ever seen in the movie, apart from the one in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It is just pure destruction, pure ruin everywhere, and it left my mouth on the floor when I saw that scene. It was loud, it was gritty, gungy, impactful in your face. Though the iconic Godzilla scream, for some reason, is not present in this movie. It is a different scream, still a very loud, intimidating, very gravelly scream, but not the that scream, the one that you all know about. That's not present in this movie, which is a bit weird. But overall, apart from that, I think it's a perfect Godzilla film. You need to see this movie, even if it's still in theaters. Just go see it. It is that good. Okay, so that concludes my top 20 favourite film list of 2023. This is definitely the longest video I've done in a while. I just had so much fun at the movie theatre this year. There were a lot of good ones that came out this year, and I am very much looking forward to what's coming out next year. I am really looking forward to Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most. What else am I looking forward to? I can't really think of many others off the top of my head apart from that one, but I know there are some really good ones coming out. I will say Anyone But You very soon, because that is an Australian film that was shot in Sydney. I'm going to watch Bump Season 4. I'm definitely going to do a review of that when that's done. And overall, I just wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year for 2023, and hope you have a wonderful 2024, and hopefully you'll have as much fun watching movies in 2024 as what I will. And so anyway, that's me done for this video. I'm really thankful that you stuck around to watch this video. It means a lot to me. Thank you for supporting the channel as always. You folks are awesome, and as always, take care. See you next time. Thank you.